This is Macaw Podcast Universe, hosted by Jordan Macaw.
And Micah Macaw. Married.
Yep. Lovers of movies.
Lovers of movies.
And each other.
And each other. And this is our 4-year anniversary this month that this is coming out.
Whoa. Some would say spooky.
Whoa. So we've been married for as long as a president's first term.
Yep, but this is a no term limits kind of deal.
But you didn't come here to hear about that, did you?
You came here to have us prove you wrong when you say sequels are never better than the originals.
Yes, that is what happened. And we're doing a very different series in a way.
This is a little bit of an not emergency, but a late edition series.
Yeah, so we have, usually we're ahead of the ball game. But we've been like really ahead of the ball game. We have a calendar that goes all the way to April at this point. And I did make some adjustments today just for fun, some that put us over a year in a calendar as a possibility, but we can always change that stuff. But having said all that, we had this 3-movie trilogy planned after The Godfather, and it's called the Three Colors trilogy, and they're French films. Mm-hmm. And we were going to do that, and I think even in a previous episode, we said, like, people, if you have any ideas, let us know, and maybe we'll, like, award you with something. We hadn't figured that out. But if you guessed it, you were right, but you're also wrong, because we canned it. Still want to cover it at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But we saw that there were these movies that were coming out on Netflix, each a week apart, and it was a trilogy of horror movies. And it was like, that is so interesting.
And for a podcast that covers franchises, this is like, I've never seen this kind of franchise before. It's the first of its kind.
Yeah, and it is...
Because thanks to streaming.
Yeah, because in any normal circumstance, I mean, even if it was like rushed, it'd still probably be, 6 months apart minimum.
Yeah.
And it probably longer than that, even if they filmed them back to back,
Yeah.
So we have this weird series, the Fear Street series. And today we're covering Fear Street Part 1, 1994, which I just thought it was such a... If alone just for the idea of a movie coming out every week and it's their different decades and they're all connected somehow, I was just like, that's cool. Already I kind of like it.
I hope you have the details on why this is.
To an extent, I do,
yeah.
Yes.
Is it like a streaming thing where it's like actually not that exciting?
Well, what do you mean by why this is?
Why would you choose to do it 1 week apart? Like, why would you choose to come out with a trilogy 1 week apart?
Oh, okay,
between each movie.
I have a little bit on that, which will be...
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess I could get into it now. What do you think?
How about you get into it now?
So, January 12th of 2021, Netflix makes an announcement, and there's a YouTube, like on their YouTube, and there's a video going around, and it is them saying, hey, every single week of 2021, we are going to put out a movie.
Okay.
Every single week. And, you're seeing clips from, like, Zack Snyder, the Adam McKay movie that still has no release date yet, but has Leonardo DiCaprio in it. Mm-hmm. There's a little clip of that. I'm sure there were clips from these movies, and it was like, Netflix is going to help you in the pandemic. That's how it felt when I did the trailer, where I was like, this is nice.
Yeah.
It felt like a gift, even though it probably has more to do with they just know that they'll keep their numbers up,
Yeah.
But it did feel like, January, we're almost to where first responders can get the vaccine. So it feels like we still are just going to be stuck at home for a year.
Do you think that in that trailer that they showcase some movies and some directors were like, are you kidding me?
I
gotta finish this movie.
Oh,
like this year.
Yeah, that
because if you're saying the Adam McKay movie has no release date,
I know. I looked
and
it
we're
up today.
in September.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, but we're not in September. Our listeners are in September.
But that's why I say September.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll change in the months to come.
But having said that, maybe they're just waiting because they expect it to be an awards movie, so it'd probably come out in like November, December
sure.
anyway.
You're right.
So, so they make this announcement, and they've had a bunch of movies come out, one every week. I think I've only seen like half of one. I haven't really watched any of these movies.
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, and we didn't really like it, so we didn't finish it. So
sorry, guys. Sometimes we don't finish movies, and sometimes we have good intentions to finish them. But this was a situation where we paused it because we needed a break. And Micah said, "It's pretty funny how we're not going to finish this movie."
I just knew when we paused it,
and we haven't.
It was just so boring.
Unfortunately,
it's like if you're gonna make a zombie movie, you gotta get to it.
And how about not make it 2 hours and 30 minutes?
Yeah, no, you need to. I mean, I've said this before on the podcast, and it is not the approach for every movie. We just covered The Godfather, so if you think we're being hypocritical, we're not. Those are slow movies in a good way. But if you're going to make a movie about zombies, don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Just get to the zombies.
Yeah.
And I know that there's an opening montage of zombies, which I was like, cool. But then there was like 40 minutes of no zombies.
But when
That's
the
crazy.
concept is it's such a high concept for zombies alone that they're like apparently like an alien or something. Don't spend so much time trying to make each person on this heist team so unique and different.
Yeah. But we didn't finish it. So, and there's a sequel coming out this year. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. This came out, and I was also seeing that, like, critically, people were really liking it. And, like, at least the first movie is in the green on Metascore. So I'm going, this seems really interesting. And we're getting close to October, and we have a Halloween series, like, not the Halloween series, but we have, like, a horror series planned. Mm-hmm. So let's just do horror back to back.
For me.
For you. And for me, because I'm getting more into it. So, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the movie being made. How does that sound?
Yeah.
It's based on the R.L. Stine books, and he's your Goosebumps writer.
Your Garbage Pail Kids. Your Mostly Ghostly. Your I forget the name of the other one.
Well, and this is one of his more popular series as well.
Yeah.
This is these are young adult books, and there's well over 100 Fear Street books.
That he wrote all of them?
I think so, but I'm not positive.
What?
There's a lot though.
Yeah.
So, the first one was published in 1989, and then Lee Yaniak makes the movie Honeymoon, which she directed, and she's one of the writers of, and she directs some episodes of Scream and Outcast, and then she makes this movie.
Cool.
These 3 movies, which they shoot them all back to back.
Is Outcast that Aaron Paul show?
I do not know what it is. No, okay. That's not Outcast.
That is something. That's out something.
Yeah. But on October 9th, 2015, they announced that they were going to make Fear Street movies, a series, and it was being developed by 20th Century Fox. And then on February 13th, 2017, Kyle Killen was hired as the screenwriter. And then in July, the project was announced as a trilogy. And then Lee gets on, who had, directed Honeymoon, her first movie. And then she rewrote it with her partner, Phil Graziadi. And then they stated that the trilogy would be shot back to back with the films released 1 month apart. So that was
a month, not a week.
That was that was the original plan.
Oh, okay.
And then it was scheduled to be released in June of 2020, but remember COVID-19.
Yeah.
And so then,
but even originally, it was meant to come out that soon after each one, even before the pandemic.
Oh yeah, so I guess that proves my point wrong. So it would have been
interesting.
It would have been June, July, August.
I wonder if it has anything to do with like the series is so prolific quantity wise. If they were like, we're just going to churn these movies out like he did the books.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad you kind of caught that. I glossed over that. So, yeah, it was going to come out last year, month to month to month. And then in April 2020, there was a deal made, a multi-year deal with the studios and a deal with Netflix. So Netflix now has distribution rights.
So here's another question I have that I know you don't know the answer to. Just a curiosity question.
Uh-huh.
So this was originally Fox, you said. Is that what you said? So they were going to release this in potentially theaters 1 month apart.
Yeah.
That is wild, and I wish that had happened.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because like if that wasn't a thing and it was just Netflix like the whole time, it's like, okay, Netflix is they're the streaming giant. They're trying this new thing. Fine. This might potentially further kill theaters. But if it was originally could have come out in theaters,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I know. And them doing it in the summer months, back to back to back, it feels like they were gonna try to kind of do their own thing and create like a little like teenage summer moment for these movies.
Love that.
You know, which that would have been really interesting to see what would have happened with that.
Been there for each one.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And so it was also a studio called Chernin Entertainment, and so they ended their distribution deal with 20th Century Fox, and they made a deal with Netflix. So then Netflix got the rights to distribute this movie.
Got it.
And then, of course, they changed the month thing. They did week to week to week, which part of it's such a funny thing. I think it's really cool for this series, but the week to week to week thing on Netflix, it is cool for this year, but it's like a little overwhelming, and it makes me feel like movies aren't that important.
I agree, but I will say, and I've only seen one of them right now, but if they're this like, I don't know, fun, and like it doesn't take a lot of investment to get into it.
Yeah.
It's like quick consuming.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I don't know if I want this to become a thing where there's just a 6-part series comes out in 1 month. Like that's just TV. It becomes TV.
Right.
So, but like a special event, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. And I do want to say, like, because of the pandemic, I think it is cool that they did that. A movie a week, you know. I do think that's cool. And I'm sure there's some people out there that are crazier than we are with movies who are like, it's Friday. There's a new Netflix movie. Yeah. We're watching it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that all happens. The screenplay is by Phil Grazie.
You already said this.
Graziade and
you already
her.
said this.
And then the story is by them and Kyle Killen.
Yeah, you said that.
I did, but I didn't.
Okay.
I said they were anyway. The music is by Marco Beltrame, who did Quiet Place 2, the upcoming Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Underwater, Ford v Ferrari.
Let There Be Carnage.
Marcus Trump, 2 P's, not 1 P.
That sucks.
I know. And so Marco and Marcus sort of work together, but on a lot of the projects, Marcus is he doesn't have a composer credit. He has a music department credit. So I don't know why that is. And what's further weird is on Wikipedia and the movie, Anna Drubick was not credited on any of those, but on IMDb, she's credited as a composer.
Oh, okay. That's
for all 3 of the movies.
That's messy.
Yeah, it's very weird. And then cinematography is by Caleb Heyman, and he is doing most, if not all, of the upcoming season of Stranger Things cinematography.
Cool.
So, and of course, this movie comes out July 2nd, 2021. And I will say it one more time, these were shot back to back to back, which is like the most interesting thing about it.
What do you mean? Like it's like instead of them being shot at the same time?
Oh, I mean, they just like, this is like Lord of the Rings style where they're just shooting all these movies. I mean, back to back makes me think that maybe they like shot one, then immediately shot the next one. But there was probably crossover and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if like Gillian Jacobs is in this movie and she's in the next movie.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I love it too because it's just so, I mean, it's great that there's source material for this series, one. But, and not only that, it's a series that's proven because there's apparently like 100 books.
Well over 100.
Well over 100 books. So it's cool that they were just like, we're not making one, we're making 3.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. It's Fear Street.
And I do want to speak to like I looked up and I was looking up some articles about the books and the movies, and this is very much like they just adapted the idea of Fear Street and like kind of loosely took from several books for like each movie.
I'm assuming.
So it's not like we did this book.
I'm assuming that the books are not all one story.
No, I think
each book is a
they're
different
all
story.
Kind of their own thing.
Cool. Admittedly, have never read anything by R.L. Stine.
Me neither.
And we were talking about it last night, how neither of us have, and how in my experience, when people have found that out, they're very surprised because I like horror very much. But as a kid, those things I didn't even like. I wasn't even aware of them that they existed.
Right.
Like the movie that came out a couple years ago, produced by Guillermo del Toro, "Stories to Tell in the Dark."
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. See, I can't even remember the title, but someone asked me like, "Oh, are you going to see that movie? Have you seen the trailer?" And it's like, "Yeah, it looks pretty good." And they're like, "Oh, I loved the books." And it's like, "Oh, those are books?" Yeah. People are just like, "Are you kidding me?" Just didn't even know that they existed. That's probably going to a Christian school as a kid, like a private school. Yeah. So just a total blind spot for me.
Yeah.
And I just remember Garbage Pail Kids looked so gross to me as a kid.
I need to look that up because I only know from what you're telling me about Garbage Pail Kids. I don't really know.
I mean, if you just Google it and look at the covers, and that's like gross out humor.
Yeah.
You know? and at my job, I've been presenting some Garbage Pail Kid titles, and they're just, the descriptions are so funny.
Really?
And gross. About like barfing and like bodily fluids and stuff. It's great. And then like on the cover, children are like vomiting and have snot and stuff. Okay, so actors, we have Kiana Madeira, who plays Dina. She's in Fear Street, 1978, Dark Matter, The Flash, TV show. She Never Died, Trinkets, Coroner, Giant Little Ones. She's in a lot for being pretty young. Well, she's actually older than us. And then Olivia
she is
by 2 years.
Wow.
Olivia Scott Welch plays Samantha Fraser. She is also in Unbelievable, Modern Family. Who is she in Modern Family? Olive. I don't know if I remember. And then some other TV shows like Agent Carter.
Ah, so she's in the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm. And then Benjamin Flores Jr. is Josh, Dina's brother. He is in Rim of the World, Happy Feet 2, Ride Along, The Haunted.
He was delightful in this movie. I liked him a lot.
He was great. He fulfilled that nerd role super well. And then Julia Rewald plays Kate. She is in Where's Darren? And really that's about it, besides these movies. Okay, so Fred Heichinger plays Simon. He's in News of the World, The Woman in the Window, 8th grade.
Okay, don't remember that.
He plays Trevor. Is that the boy that she has a crush on?
It might be.
That's weird to think about.
Yeah.
He's also in the upcoming show The White Lotus and these movies.
Okay, cool.
But, I have to mention this person. Ashley Zuckerman plays the sheriff.
Okay.
He is in Succession.
Now, so obviously this movie is very Scream inspired. And I just had a funny joke that Jordan didn't really get, because I don't think I presented it well.
I took it too seriously.
But maybe you as the audience will. So I think before this movie, as they're filming, they're probably like, guys, this is very much kind of Scream inspired. So like, let's kind of make everything a little bit of an attribute to that movie.
They probably watch those movies.
Yeah. And I think he may have taken that assignment too seriously because he's kind of just as bad as David Arquette is in Scream, and David Arquette is the sheriff in Scream. And I know this guy can act, but he's not doing a good job in this movie.
David Arquette is not the sheriff.
He isn't?
No, he's a police officer who is like, I think he kind of gets crapped on.
Okay. He's not but he is a cop.
He is a cop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
you're right.
Ashley watched it and was like, "Oh, so you want me to be bad in this movie?" And they were like,
when he showed up, Mike and I were like, "That's not BJ Novak, right?"
Yeah, I know.
They look a lot alike. He's in Succession, and I'm
That's all we need to
not
know.
further talking about his career because if you haven't seen Succession, go watch it.
Yeah.
That's punishment, I guess. And then Maya Hawke is in this movie playing the Drew Barrymore role of Scream.
Yeah.
If you have seen Scream, you know the first little chunk of that movie is Drew Barrymore, and she dies famously. So, spoiler alert, Maya Hawke dies in the first scene. But it was like really fun.
Yeah,
that sounds so weird.
Well, and
but
it is directly an homage, like
Absolutely.
in every way, to like the slow motion stab in the back,
Yep.
the phone ringing, and it's like this. I mean, Maya Hawke is not to the caliber that Drew Barrymore was when she was in Scream, but Maya Hawke is like on the rise.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying
I know
it
you're
is
saying,
kind of
yeah.
like I see her at the beginning and I'm like, oh okay, she's the main character. That's what I thought, and then
But
to kill
would you
her
have
right
thought
away.
that in 1996?
If Drew Barrymore was, oh yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's how they presented Scream, like the
Yeah.
trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think it is pretty much a direct. I mean, no one's arguing that it's not a direct Scream thing. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it is.
And that's cool.
I'm not arguing with you.
I love Scream.
Okay. I feel like we've covered Maya Hawke.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe we haven't. She's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I feel like we have because I feel like I've. Oh no, I think when we talked about Ethan Hawke,
Yeah.
we talked about her.
And she's Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, daughter of Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
Yes.
And that's it.
So before we get into the plot, I want to do a tiny bit of housekeeping as far as our podcast is concerned in regards to this movie. So we have a rule that we cover theatrical releases.
Oh,
That's one of our
I
things.
completely forgot.
Yeah, because we didn't want to do like, say we do Lion King, and then we have to cover like however many direct-to-video Disney sequels there are. But we are in a new frontier where streaming doesn't necessarily mean lesser quality. I still think in a lot of cases it does.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't. And I think since this was planned theatrical, and these are definitely real movies, and I think, yeah, well, no, forget what I was going to say, which I didn't say, so it doesn't matter. But I think we may have to be a little malleable with that rule that we have.
Mm-hmm.
It might just be one of those things where maybe we cover a series like Shrek, which we've covered, and maybe they say, hey, we're going to make, 8 Puss in Boots movies on Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
We're going to make 8 Puss in Boots movies on HBO Max. We might just say, no, thank you. We're not going to do that.
Yeah. I would consider that direct to video.
Yeah. But I felt like this was an exception. Plus watching that movie, I was like, this is a real movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the excuse we use to not cover the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Yeah.
And so I know we're getting a little muddy waters, but we're also at a point in movie history where like things are changing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that for anyone who's as OCD about the way this podcast is organized as I am, which probably is no one else, because that's the thing I obsess about and it brings me so much joy, scheduling and figuring out how we're going to do this. So that's what I wanted to say up front.
Okay. I completely forgot about that. I think I was so much like, oh yeah, let's do horror.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, I take care of that stuff.
Yeah,
know.
you're the
I'm the organized
guy.
Organizer. I'm the producer of the podcast.
You just tell me when to show up.
I tell you what we're watching tonight. So then I wanted to bring up another topic of conversation to set the table. And it's kind of two conversations. And that is the coveted R rating. Now, do you want to jump off on anything before I jump in?
What do you mean? What would I have to say? Because I don't even know what you're going to say.
Okay. Well, it's just interesting. I saw a quote from Lee, the director, where she said, like right when she signed on, she was like, this is going to be R no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want to direct it if it's not R. And I think, now you know us, currently on our Patreon, we are covering the Kill Bill movies. So we have no problems with an R rating. I think it's just an interesting topic of conversation. So she's like, it's got to be R. But they're based on young adult books, and that confuses me a little bit. It's like the same reason, like you wouldn't make Lord of the Rings rated R. You know what I mean?
Did she say why?
I think she just wanted it to be really gory.
Okay.
And on the one hand, it's like cool, an adaptation. They're kind of doing their own thing, which I like.
Did she say that on the onset before this was a Netflix thing? Because they would have lost so much money in theaters if this was R.
Oh, well, they had filmed the movies before they released them in theaters, so they were going to be R.
I just think that's not the right choice.
Yeah, well, it's weird because this will sound like we're being squares, but I do think this movie...
I'm looking at this as a business person.
Yes.
But go ahead first.
I do think that this movie suffers a little bit for how graphic it is. And that's not to say that I don't... I'm not trying to be a square. I just think if this movie had a little bit more restraint in regards to like the language and the violence, it might have just been a little bit more enjoyable for like the story that they were presenting. Possibly.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Personally, I think it's interesting. It really depends on the movie. So like looking at this on a business angle, let's say this was to come out in theaters and it came out as an R.
Yeah.
Which there have been horror movies with teenagers that are R-rated. There's so many.
Yeah.
But I think like a studio would really push for PG-13 because you want teenagers to see this.
Yeah.
And that still stands. If you're not 17, you can't see rated R unless you're accompanied by an adult.
Yeah.
And I know that like that who really holds to that though.
Right.
But it is like I think that they would make less money if this was rated R in theaters.
Having said that, though, to be our own devil's advocate, you look at the It movies, which were both hard Rs. And those movies, like, just destroyed the box office.
Yeah.
And I
don't think this would have destroyed the box office.
No, I don't think so either. But I think if it was PG-13, it would have had a chance to.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a little lack of understanding.
It's so hard to say, though, because there's how many horror movies are cult classics that people didn't see until after theaters.
Right.
So, I mean, if it did come out, the director's probably even thinking, like, I don't care, cares less about the money than the producers do and the studio does. Like, the director has the creative vision, and the creative vision includes an R rating.
Yeah.
So, fine. That's fine.
It's interesting, I guess, because this movie, because I will compare it to Scream.
Yeah.
Scream feels like R material, and it makes sense to me that those are R movies. But this kind of felt like and maybe it's just because of my association with Netflix, so maybe this is a me problem. Yeah. I'm so curious if anyone else has thoughts about this, and I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. This is just my own opinion on it. But it feels like this is more of a like, hey, you liked Stranger Things, you're going to like Fear Street.
Yeah, I think so,
and this is based on young adult novels. You may have read them when you were a teen. Like, check this out. But then it doesn't feel like it actually fits into that mold.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's actually cool.
I have to think about it from my perspective as a teenager, though. I specifically sought out gory movies when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So I'm different now. I mean, not that I won't watch something because it's gory now.
Yeah.
But to say all that I'm saying, if I was a teenager and this movie came out, I would still watch this movie.
Right. The movie was like slightly jarring to me because of that. And that part of that was just my expectation. Like, I just expected it to be a little bit less graphic.
I think I'm more interested in the power of suggestion before gore.
Uh-huh.
Like if someone is about to get hurt or killed in this kind of horrific way and the camera cuts away, sometimes I think that's scarier.
Yeah. Than
seeing it. And then I think for this movie, I'm thinking more towards the end of the movie, one particularly goring moment.
Yeah.
It just like didn't have much of an impact to me, especially because literally 2 minutes later, everything was fine.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just felt weird that they held on to a couple characters for so long in the movie and none of them died. And then finally 2 of them died like right at the end.
Yeah.
And I do like more than anything for horror. It's like, well, we're done with that character. They're dying now. I get it. But like this person died really horrifically. And then literally 2 minutes later, if she had stayed alive 2 minutes longer, she would have been alive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's just kind of like not great.
Yeah.
Writing, maybe? I don't know.
We are discussing movies that are having fun with the slasher genre.
That's true.
That's
true, but I feel like there was a long time in between people getting slashed and people getting slashed much later in the movie. There wasn't much in between.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of it was figuring it out, which is my favorite part of a movie like that. But does that make sense?
I think so. I'm wondering if our audience is making any sense of what we're saying. But having said that, I liked this movie a lot. Like
it was fun.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Like I think if you are into graphic horror, like you will have fun with this movie.
Yeah.
It is like pop the popcorn Friday night. Let's watch it.
Which is what we did, but on a Sunday. But we still had that corn.
We did.
It was very fun. And like it wasn't taking itself too seriously, but there was like a really fun, interesting mystery that they had to solve. They just kind of ticked all those boxes for me.
Yeah. And I will say though, but going back to the R thing again before we get in, it is just funny because there are directors who have certain visions like that, whatever. But I do think in our when writing something or creating something, I just don't restrain yourself to thinking that if it's R, that makes it legitimate. Because there are plenty of things that are G that are legitimate. Now we're talking about horror. I know that's a different ball game, but you know, I think about
go back and listen to our Insidious series, which were all PG-13 horror movies that are really scary movies.
Definitely scarier than this, I think.
Absolutely, easily scarier. And better movies.
Yeah, I like them more.
So
except the fourth one. The fourth one's bad, but
I still kind of liked it. But yeah, and I don't even know if that's what this director felt or what the movie was going for that would make it legitimate.
Yeah.
But I know you're talking about audience members often think that a movie can't be good unless it's R.
Well, it's like
or a genre of something.
It's easiest to talk about superhero movies, but I won't go too far. But you know, it's like the Robert Pattinson trailer for Batman comes out, and the internet says, "Ooh, this better be R."
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Who cares if it's R? Like, I don't care if it's PG. If it's a good story, then it's a good story.
Yep.
And it'll tell that story.
Yeah.
So R doesn't make it legitimate.
Yeah.
But these are really fun movies. Or this is a fun movie. I haven't seen the next two.
Bet they're fun.
I bet so. I bet the next one will have
really fun.
A lot of sex in it. Because 1978 Halloween and Friday the 13th came out in that decade.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, and those movies are like riddled with sex. So,
well, it's like consequences of premarital sex.
Right. And explain that if someone isn't familiar with that.
This is also lame. I haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street, and I need to watch it just for like education's sake of liking horror movies. But I do know.
I mean, the trope begins in the movie Halloween. That's like cited as, which we've watched.
Let's talk about Halloween then.
Yeah.
But I just have heard this other thing about Nightmare on Elm Street. But 70s. Friday the 13th too, because we've seen some of it, and it was like teenagers having sex at this summer camp, and then they immediately got murdered afterwards.
Yeah.
Or like in Halloween, there are teenagers having sex, and then they get murdered.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And the people who don't have sex survive.
Yes. That is like a weird trope in that decade of film.
Yeah.
Or probably, around that time of film.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what else is there to say about it, but that, which is just like pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Well, horror...
I bet there are some books on it.
Horror has some really insane tropes, and that's what like the Scream movies are all about, is talking about those tropes.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those tropes are of the past 20 years in horror, but I was
thinking about it.
I would hope.
Yeah.
Real quick, hold on to that. I would hope that maybe this new Scream movie that's coming out in January, I would hope that it would comment on the last 20 years of horror since they released Scream 4.
Well, I was just thinking in terms of more genre specific because, so, this movie's the 90s and it's playing off Scream stuff, which Scream is slasher.
Oh, yeah.
But it is like a play on the 70s stuff, which is fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's like self-referential of the genre.
We're a play on a play here.
Yeah, and then like 70s, 80s, also slasher, but like I would say there's more demonic stuff going on.
Yeah.
As well. So maybe
like exorcism and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then so like then 90s you do have more like it is just a person doing it.
Yeah.
Which is Scream. And then I think currently we are obsessed with exorcisms.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of exorcism movies right now. Or in the last several years. And I think a bit like
can you say some examples?
Well, like The Conjuring.
Oh, okay.
And I think because The Conjuring was so successful, we have so many not just Conjuring movies, but like other movies, like The Last Exorcism of insert name.
Yeah.
Because that's like there's how many movies have titles of that. But I also think there is also a lot more folklore horror as well.
Yeah.
In the recent years, which is like, please do so many more movies like that.
Yeah.
Please, because those are so interesting. Where it's like an actual monster or something. So you have like Babadook, which I know is made up.
Yeah.
It's not like based on something, which is also like, what? That's cool. But then we recently watched The Wailing, which is a Korean horror movie. And it has a ton of Korean folklore in it.
Very cool movie.
Yeah.
Would recommend.
And so I feel like folklore and exorcisms, not necessarily together, but maybe also together, are becoming kind of a thing now. Of course, you can't talk about current horror and not talk about torture porn, though, too, like Saw.
Although I feel like that's kind of out the door at this point.
I think it is.
Especially since Jigsaw didn't do well.
And that's why I think that like paranormal stuff... Wait, what?
What is it called? Jigsaw? Spiral from the Book of Saw.
I think the paranormal stuff is more prevalent than the Saw stuff. I think that stuff's more beginning of 2000s. Because I think ever since Paranormal Activity came out, it was a smashing success. We have been all about possessions. Which
I'm remembering now that Scream 4 came out in the early teens because they kind of comment on the found footage. Because remember the
found footage.
The Culkin, has like the camera that he carries around.
I can't wait to talk about Culkins whenever we cover that.
Oh yeah. Wink, wink. Whenever we cover that.
Yeah.
You know what would be cool is if Scream 2022 comes out and if they play on this folklore thing, is if now it's like, well, the Scream killing is like a part of the folklore of the town or something like that. And people, maybe the new person is presenting it like it is like this fear, like in Fear Street, how it's like, well, these murders happen and it wasn't just a person doing it. It was like an evil force. Yeah. That might be a way to comment on current horror.
I know. I'm curious how they'll do it.
That's what Scream does.
Yeah. Can you tell we like Scream? Also, that we're talking about it so much because of the movie we're talking about today. Fear Street, 1994. The year that I was born. So let's talk about the movie.
Yes. Let's talk about So the movie begins. We see Maya Hawke. She's selling a Fear Street book to someone. Yeah. And the person's
I thought it was a hilarious joke where she's talking about how great it is. And the mom's like, this is trash. And I'm buying it for my daughter.
Yeah. And then when she walks away, she flips her off.
Yeah. You just flipped me off.
Oh, sorry. And so you see Maya Hawke, and I'm like, oh, awesome. I didn't even know she was in this. Yeah. Let's go. And then she talks to this guy who's in the mall with her as she's closing up. And the guy's...
He works at like a Spencer's Gifts is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and he has like a sex doll, and he's gross. Yeah. Right off the bat, I'm like, oh, I hope this guy's not in the movie that much.
But they're like hanging out after. They're like, she's getting a ride from him, so she's closing up the bookstore. And as she's doing that, there is someone in there. Well, she gets a phone call. No one answers. Is on the other end, and then there is someone in there with her, and she sees that it's a person in a skeleton mask wearing like a skeleton Halloween outfit. Yep. With a knife.
Yeah, and he tries to stab her, and she's holding a book. I liked that little dodge.
Yeah.
and she's running all over the place. And the whole time, which is good filmmaking, I was like, are they going to kill her? No, they're not going to kill her.
I thought, I kind of went back and forth too, but I'm like, no, she has to die. This is Fear Street, 1994. She has to.
But I was thinking like, oh, maybe
they'll flip it on its head somehow.
The other people are going to die. And then she's like, I survived and saw this thing. And then that motivates her. But the whole time I'm going back and forth and I'm like, is she going to die? Is she not? Have some great, like, her screaming and getting dragged.
You know
some
what?
Of those shots.
I will say, because you said in terms of like Drew Barrymore, because it is true. I'm sure when people saw that, they were like, okay, this movie stars Drew Barrymore till the end.
Yep.
And it's not true. And I think especially with a generation below us, they see Maya Hawke and they think the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps not knowing about Scream.
Yeah.
Because you said that Maya Hawke you don't think is as at the height of her career as Drew Barrymore was at the time of Scream.
Yeah.
And although you may be true, I think the impact's the same.
I think the impact's the same for people who have seen her.
Yeah.
I just, like, by this time, Drew Barrymore is like a household name.
Well, she's been around
Hawke
since she was,
name.
E.T.
But, yeah.
So, yeah. She's been around for a very long time at that point.
But it's like, it's the same idea they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
So there's a slow motion stab in the back, and we're off to the races, right?
Well, he gets her across the stomach first.
Oh,
so she goes into his store, and he's not there. Her friend, and so she's trying to figure out what to do. She gets cut in the stomach, and then she's running away, seeing other dead people in the mall.
Yeah.
So he's killed some other people, and then he gets her in the back, and then he gets her in the heart, and then she takes off his mask, and it's her friend.
Yeah.
And the police shoot him. The police or David Arquette type shows up and shoots him dead.
Yep. And then we have this really cool intro.
Yeah, because it tells us so much.
Yeah, and
they just are really figuring out opening credits, man.
It's showing, which, like, it's going backward in time.
And it has all these newspaper clippings.
Yeah, and some of them are characters we're going to see later in the movie, like Ruby Lane.
Yeah.
Is one it shows like murdered in 1965 and
Ruby Lane murdered people and then murdered herself.
Yeah.
Killed herself. So it's just you're seeing this in the town of Shadyville, Shady something. There's just been a lot of massacres have occurred. Mm-hmm. And then you have Sunnyvale, which is like the ritzy part of town, or the neighboring town where all the rich people
One
live.
is Pawnee, the other is
Eagleton.
Yeah.
So all these newspaper clippings through decades and decades and decades of massacres.
Yeah.
Of people claiming that person became possessed. People think a witch is possessing people. And now it's just a fun folk tale potentially.
Yep.
At this point.
And I always like that in horror movies. Like you're saying, it's a very Stephen King.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's not Stephen King. It's the nature of folklore. But it just reminds me of It. Like if you've read that book, there's so many where then the Mike, the librarian, like tells you what happened in 1800s with Pennywise, and then you're like, whoa,
in the town of Derry.
Yeah. And so you see all this like rich history, and the thing that this movie does really, really well, and King does amazingly, is he always makes it like, oh yeah, I feel like I've heard stories like that about Medford, maybe. Like they always sound like these echoes of like, oh yeah, we talked about that in school, and we thought this person maybe did that weird thing or whatever. It's just such a like small town thing, but really it's like any town anywhere has like maybe the memories of the town is evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I love that. We get introduced to Josh and the main character, who I don't know her name. Dina.
Who's Josh?
That's her brother.
Oh, okay.
He's the only name I remembered.
He is the nerd. So this is 1994. Computers are becoming popular.
And he's like instant messaging someone.
He's IMing someone, and they're talking. Aren't they talking about this stuff? They're talking about the massacre that just happened.
Yeah, at the mall.
And then you can tell because of what they're talking about. Like he is read up on the history of these massacres. and he's interested in it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so Dina, you also learn that they, assuming they don't have a mom because they never mention a mom.
Yeah.
And they have a dad who I'm assuming like works night shifts because you never see him. And also he seems like an absent father.
Yeah.
So Dina,
and we find out he's an alcoholic and stuff.
Yeah. So Dina, it takes care of the house, because she's the older child.
Yep.
And so she's getting her brother to go to school with her, and they go to high school.
And he sees one of the other main characters, the girl.
Yeah. I got it.
And while he does that, Sadie B. Hawkins.
Rachel. Oh, Kate.
Kate. He sees Kate, and Sadie B. Hawkins' song, "Damn, I wish I was your lover," plays. And I'm always a fan of that trope where someone sees someone they're interested in and music plays in their head. That's the best.
Yeah.
I did find out when I was looking stuff up that many of these songs that are in this movie, while they came out in the 90s, did not come out before 94.
That's funny.
And they use the term.
They're representing a decade.
Yeah, and that may have been intentional. I doubt that would like just slip under their radar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think for the most part, I liked the needle drops, but maybe there was like 10% too much.
Okay.
Maybe.
You're more attuned to that than I am.
Yeah, well, there was just a lot of times. I think at the beginning it worked really well, but later on in the movie, there's just a couple times.
because there's
it play
so
it for
much,
5 seconds,
like
and then
grunge and garage stuff.
Yeah, and it plays 5 seconds, and then it goes to the next song, plays for 5 seconds, then it goes to the score.
I couldn't believe we had to wait till the end of the movie to hear a Soundgarden song.
I am so unfamiliar with Soundgarden.
I think it was either that or Audio Slave. I'm sure it was Soundgarden.
Oh yeah, because it's Chris Cornell.
Yeah,
I recognized his voice, but I am so unfamiliar with his work.
Was there a Nirvana song?
No Nirvana that I caught.
Is that a little too late? No?
I think you could have, but they were
Maybe
they were doing like 9 Inch Nails and stuff. So
I guess, and reflecting on it, I think it was all pretty funny and good.
Yeah. I just take out like
saying.
4 maybe.
Yeah.
Well, and they did. Speaking of this, and then we don't have to talk about it later. But there's a scene where Simon sees this girl on the street, and she's like a possessed person, and she's singing this song, and then she attacks him and starts trying to kill him, and the song she was singing plays, and it's that eerie, when you're hearing like an old timey song and something really violent is happening. And it played for like 5 seconds, and then it switched to the score. And I was like, no, just
go with it.
Just stick with the song.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was the song she was singing till they clarified that.
I don't know that either.
But it was like sometimes those decisions, I'm like, don't trust us. We'll go with you. You don't have to like distract us like a puppy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's me really getting into the nitty gritty.
That's what we're here for.
After we watched Suicide Squad, I think my brain has been broken for soundtracks where now I'm like, I know.
Well, you watched that Patrick Williams video too, so now you're just hyper aware of it.
I am.
So Dina, while she's walking to her locker, seeing all these couples in school, and you are curious, like, what happened to Dina? Who broke Dina's heart? It's high school boo-hoo. So her friend Kate gets her. They go to the bathroom, and Dina is trying to get her to give this box of stuff back to the person that she recently ended a relationship with, to which Kate refuses to. You learn a little bit about what's going on. There's an upcoming game against the rival school in Sunnyville, I think.
Yeah, the witches versus the
devils.
The devils,
which I think is fun.
I think it's fun.
Great. And then Kate refuses to do it, makes her go to the game. Apparently, so like Dina's in band, so she has to go anyway. I don't know. They're kind of talking about the massacre. Kate, no one really seems to care. Other than like they're just being teenagers about it.
Yeah.
Like he was insane. It's gross. It's creepy. Ugh.
Yeah.
And the other guy, Simon, is there too.
And Jordan has her IMDb out, and she's been flipping back and forth for the names.
So Simon, I think he totally knows what he's doing with his character. He's so
great performance.
Funny. Yeah, he is just the weird guy.
I mean, I really only the sheriff was like the only like sore thumb performance for me.
Yeah, and I think the Simon guy was just really locked in.
Yeah.
To what he was doing. So he's the weird. He's the Ducky character from Pretty in Pink. So they have this box of pills. So Kate and him sell prescription pills to kids. That's her side hustle so that she can get out of this crap town.
Which is it's very funny. Sometimes you don't need to read too much into movies, but like it's just funny that like her drug selling and use is like the way that they're it kind of
saves, or it's like their solution to the problem.
It's sort of like, are you saying drugs are good?
It's like, don't think about it. Don't think about it. So they're then going to the game, or there's a candlelight
vigil for Maya Hawke,
and the other people,
and
died.
they call her Maya Hawke.
Yeah,
no,
yeah, it's weird. So it's the rival schools. You see, Dina sees the Sam who she just broke up with a dude, like back in another relationship, and they speak privately, and she's trying to give her back her stuff, and now they just get into this huge fight
she's
about
like,
the
you're
relationship.
ashamed of who you are, and
so Sam used to live in Shady Side or whatever the town's called, and her parents got divorced, and she decided to move to Sunnyvale.
Yeah,
and so basically she became a fake person, and it kind of sounds like that's why Dina broke up with her.
Yeah.
So they're arguing about that. Like, she doesn't even know who she is, but Dina's like, I might never get out of this town and become just like my dad and drink myself to sleep every night, but at least I know who I am. And it's like, you got issues too, man. You need to work through them. Maybe by the end of the movie, you will. So they're fighting, and then during the vigil, the two schools start fighting.
Yeah.
Classic high school football.
Yeah, classic bully stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, wrong word to use, but fun. And they're fighting, and then they get in their school bus, and Katie's like getting everybody amped up, and she's like, "We're gonna kill, the devils and this, that, and the other thing," and then Peter, I think, is Sam's boyfriend's name.
I think so.
Peter and one of his cronies are driving in a convertible, and they drive up to the bus and they start hucking stuff at the bus.
Yeah.
I didn't realize till just now that they wouldn't be able to huck stuff.
Well, what's just funny about that is I just was like, this is a movie. It's a movie, and you just got to let the movie happen, because the bus driver would even be able to know.
He'd pull over. And
yeah. And like they open that back door. That's a slam on the brake situation.
Yeah.
What is going on? So bus driver not on his A game that night.
Yeah. But I just realized, totally, I don't care. It's fine. But I just realized if they threw anything, it would just fly behind them because they're throwing it forward.
Oh, you're talking about physics.
Yeah, and they're going.
Oh, that's a good point that I didn't even think about.
55 miles an hour, and they're just hucking
I'm thinking about the job that the bus driver is performing and not doing a great job at. I know that, yeah.
I kept waiting for them to cut to like this old guy who's like, hey, what's going on back there?
Apparently students drive the bus.
Maybe that's it. So then the
Dina throws out like a water cooler, and it causes them.
Bleeding.
Her nose starts bleeding.
Why does her nose start bleeding?
Hold on. So she throws a water cooler out the back of the bus, and it causes them to crash into the woods. I don't know if her nose starts bleeding just because, or if it's because they were near the place.
Okay. Yeah, because it's Sam's nose bleeds throughout the movie, but it seems connected to the witch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
can't she just get a bloody nose?
Well, no, I'm just curious.
I know.
So then that car crashes. It almost kills the kids.
And the bus driver, nary to be seen. So everyone survives, it appears. Kate gets out of the car, and they're like you said, they're in the woods. It's very creepy. She gets all these images flash in her brain of witchcraft stuff.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Sam. Of witchcraft stuff.
And so we'll find out later that like marks her for the witch. Because she had blood on her, and the blood touched the remains of this witch.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what it was. Because later, when they go back to the bones, she wipes her bloody nose and touches the bones.
And gets visions again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're all attracted to the blood throughout the movie.
That much I got.
Yeah. So, then the cop comes, and they all, no matter whose side the bus people are on or the car people are on, they're all like not selling each other out. They're going to settle things by
On the
beating each
streets.
other up.
Yeah.
So then Kate is she's babysitting. And
this is how she babysits.
Yeah.
She gets the 2 kids that she's babysitting to sort the drugs into little baggies so that she can sell them.
Which I thought was like a funny, this seems like I'm watching an old movie.
It does.
Yeah,
they
I
really
liked
went
that
for
touch.
it. And this is funny because the kids are just smiling and nodding. And then she's like, oh, yeah, and don't take any of them or else you'll die. And everyone will be really sad.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's enough.
Yeah. And Simon still has the bloody shirt on from the night before or the night of.
Sam like barfed blood on him.
Yeah, because that'll be important.
Yeah.
And then
it's just funny because again, to show how well that character was even written and how well it was performed, he still has this bloody shirt on from a day ago, and he's like, I had to work a double shift and I didn't have time to change.
And I actually bought it.
I did.
I was like,
I
yeah,
did too.
okay.
Yeah, it was funny.
He seems like that kind of guy. Yeah. And then Dina.
Mm-hmm.
Man, bad choice of name. It's just hard to
Pretty
remember.
90s name to me.
Is it? Okay.
It just feels like it.
And if your name's Dina, that's great.
Yeah.
But Dina is seeing like a skull person outside of her house with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And she's convinced that it's Sam's boyfriend pranking them for
hearing them.
Yeah.
So she's trying to go to the hospital where Sam is at to confront her about it. And she's also concerned.
Yeah.
She's in the hospital.
Well, that person also, or that creepy thing, goes to Katie's house, or where she's babysitting, and it's like sniffing the shirt and like pulling it apart. And then
did it show it sniffing?
Well, it was like it was holding the shirt, and it was like wrestling with it.
Yeah.
So
and then it was gone.
And
And
so then
Simon puts the shirt back on.
He does, yeah. And then they all get together. And they're like, okay, we got to go to the hospital. We're telling Sam that she needs to tell Peter to stop pranking us. They go to the hospital, and
they take Dina's brother. So he has no friends, conceivably no friends, besides the internet, which makes him a loser.
Yeah.
And he is so excited to go. Not only that, Kate's there.
Yeah.
Who is his crush.
Uh-huh.
So he's just like, play it cool. So they go to the hospital.
And what happens at the hospital, Jordan?
Well, Dina and Sam start fighting again, I guess, and then Peter shows up, and she starts fighting with him, and Peter dies. He gets stabbed bad.
And is it the skull, or is it it's the axe guy?
No, it's the skull.
It is the skull
it's a
one?
knife. Yeah.
Okay. So Skull Boy starts stabbing people, and they're running away. They steal an ambulance.
You commented on how you liked the sound of the blood in this movie.
Did I?
You did.
Oh, yeah, because there was a scene where someone touched a piece of paper and it was like...
very loud. So, yeah, there are other... It's just like the mall. So, like, other people have been massacred already by the time you even find Sam, the knife, the skull person. And
his mask gets knocked off in the confusion, and it's the guy from the mall at the beginning.
He's dead.
And he has, like, a bullet hole in his head.
Yes. And like flies around him.
Oh, that's cool.
What's going on? So they steal an ambulance and flee.
Yeah.
And they go to the police station.
Yep. And what happens at the police station?
Okay. They're trying to tell them what happened. And of course, like any classic, horror movie, they don't believe them. They're just a bunch of kids. They get prank calls all the time, which means the kids have to figure it out themselves. And then another thing is revealed that they never explain in this movie, not even at the very end. And I just feel like we missed something. But at the very beginning of the movie, there is a janitor working at the mall. And then later in the movie, he is in jail. Well, and it was not clear why he was in jail.
It was very weird because there was a scene where the cop was talking to him. And he's like, I know it was you that tagged this stuff with the spray paint. And he's like, why would I tag my own stuff? And he's like, I don't know.
But wasn't he spray painting the box as he was talking?
Yeah.
So he's like, I mean, they were...
I did not understand that at all.
I don't know if they were just trying to show that this cop was not a good cop, like he was a bad cop.
But that didn't pay off in any regard.
It didn't. And they also didn't explain something later that we'll get to.
Oh, tell me now.
Well, this is more towards the climax of the movie. The police officer, he goes to Dina's house to try and contact her. I can't remember why he was provoked to do it for a reason. He doesn't even knock on the door, I think. He writes her a note and slips it through the mail slot, and it says, it's happening again.
Who did that?
And so I just have to assume.
You know what? I think he did not do that I think that was at.
It was at Dina's house, 100%.
Are you sure it wasn't at Gillian Jacobs' house?
Oh, it looked like Dina's house, but I guess it was Gillian's.
Because that
would make more sense.
Yeah, which maybe like in the next movie, maybe he's. Yeah, no.
He has to be in that character has to be in the next movie.
Yeah, I think. It was Gillian Jacobs' house.
Okay, it just looks like the front of Dina's house, I guess, to me.
No, yeah, it was that.
Cool. But yeah, they never explained the guy that's in jail and the police officer, like, I guess, framing him.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't really get what that was about.
And it took me a while, and then I was like, oh, he was in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Also Fargo.
And Fargo. So many people were in Fargo. I feel like we've been...
Pretty big cast that last season.
Yeah. But, so while they're in the police station trying to get the police help, Simon sees the woman on the street that we already talked about with the weird, like,
just another
thing.
very funny joke when he's talking to people about what happened. He's like, she was so hot. And then she just started trying to cut me with her old, like, barbershop razor thing. And then later on in the movie when he sees her again, she's just so hot, but she's trying to kill me.
But he escapes. They get away. Then we have probably my favorite part of the movie where Josh is like, okay, I think I know what's going on. And the camera like zooms in and he goes, there was a witch. And he
has all of these newspaper articles and stuff.
Yeah. And this witch like was
back to the 1600s.
Yeah. And
she would possess
wrongfully
people.
killed.
Wrongfully
and they cut off her hand. And when her hand is cut off, she rules the land past death, all this folklore stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm very interested in the next two movies, because the next movie's 1978.
Yep.
And then it's 1666.
Yeah.
And I'm curious where it's gonna go because this movie ends kind of cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But the next one's 1978. So is it like most of the movie's gonna be in 1978 and then they pick up in the present?
I don't know.
Or is there like time travel or something, maybe? I don't know. Is that too crazy?
No. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea, but I don't think time travel is going to be part of it. Personally, I don't think so.
Yeah, actually, the next movie is probably her, like, let me tell you what happened.
And then maybe, like, by the end of that story, there's, like, 20 minutes or 15 minutes.
They're like, oh, we should do this because that happened to you.
They should do this, and then you get to 1666, and it does the same thing, and at the end of it, they solve it. That's a good guess.
Yeah, we'll see if we're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Josh is like saying the legend and stuff like that.
Great. I was a little bummed.
Crate, you said.
Sorry. As he was telling it, he was talking about all of the people that have been allegedly possessed by the witch who have committed like these massacres throughout the history since 1666. I'm a little bummed that we only got to see 3 of them reanimated.
I think if it is what we just said, the movie, the next 2 movies could be, we might be seeing more.
Okay. Because we get snapshots of the others, but which
were so insanely violent.
I
was
missed
like
one
shocked.
of them, and you said that was good that I missed it. What happened?
Well, someone just stabbed this woman up through the jaw into like her brain as she was laying down, and it was just like,
the other one was more graphic to me.
Oh, the like baby killing the guy or whatever,
like with a bat. Yeah,
yeah, that one was also.
So there was like all we get.
If you're squeamish, don't watch this movie, please.
There's an axe guy, like a lumberjack axe guy, the Ruby something, the 60s housewife.
Yeah.
And then the kid from the beginning of the movie. That's all the 3 like reanimated corpses that we get.
Yeah. Yes.
So I do hope that we get the others.
Yeah, I bet it's what we just said will be how they present the next 2 movies,
Yeah.
So
they determine that they just determine that they need to go back and find to the spot where it first happened with Sam, where she started getting these visions.
And rebury the bones.
They don't even know that yet.
Oh, yeah.
They just go, we just need to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So they go back to where that car crash happened. And this is also kind of a funny thing to me. But it's also like, it's a movie. It's fine. Whatever. The bones are like basically above the ground.
Right.
Like, of course,
this
like
is like
so,
400 years ago.
Yeah. So like this witch was
yeah,
chained to something and like killed or executed, and then apparently they just left her body there for the next 400 years, and I just like the earth changed so much by then, right?
I know.
So that was a little funny to me, especially with like a highway being built like not that far away.
Well, maybe one could say that the witch was trying to get out, and her bones have been coming to the surface.
I would be good with that.
See, that's the beauty about like fantasy and horror is sometimes you can just make that up, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I accept that.
So often in Stephen King books, he has characters who say, "I don't know why, but I just knew this."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
And that always works in the book, but when you're watching his movies, sometimes it's like you can't show that in a movie, unfortunately.
I know.
A character being like, it's not rational, but I need to make this idea.
Like 300 pages understanding the character and what the character has gone through. So it's like, they would know that. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's cool about this, so, they do the bones, it doesn't work. They put them back, and they attack, and they discover, like, oh, it's after Sam, it's trying to get her blood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's trying to kill her. But yeah. And so what I really enjoyed about this is they come up with a plan.
Yeah.
And their plan succeeds.
Yeah.
And they do it really well, which is trapping the 3 people and burning them in the school. It just is not enough to kill them.
Yeah.
And that's all, because sometimes when horror movies are often chastised, is that the right word, for like characters making stupid decisions, and you watch it and you're like, what? Like, why would you do that thing?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people just don't realize how shock works.
I know, it's so funny when people say like, I would have never done that. And it's like, maybe you would have. I might have.
Yeah, but
I might
sometimes
have run up the stairs away from the person holding the knife when obviously that's not what you should ever do.
Yeah, no, when there's something in a house and people are like, hello? And people laugh at that. Couldn't tell you how many times in our home, since we've had it in February, like I've heard something and I just walk out, unarmed, with nothing, and it's just like, I'm just going to see if someone or something's in here.
Called being human.
Yeah. But having said that, it is nice when characters are smart in movies.
Yeah.
And I think they're really smart in this, and they do a good job, but it doesn't like destroy the curse. It's supernatural.
Yeah, so they succeed in doing it just like you said, and the corpses start like the flesh starts coming back together and reanimating again.
Yeah. And so prior to that, there's this weird scene where like each couple, like Josh and Kate, like have a thing in the bathroom.
I think they just kiss.
Okay.
I think they just kiss. It's still weird. It's still weird.
And then Sam and Dina have a thing, and then Simon has his own thing by himself.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's sometimes it's just weird when you're watching characters that are supposed to be high school do something sexual. And I'll just leave it at that. It's just like, I'm very uncomfortable watching this scene.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, pull some M. Night Shyamalan and just let us not see it, and just let us go to the next, close the door or whatever, I don't know. I don't know. I just think that's it. It's just odd when you're watching characters that young doing those things.
Yeah, I think it's weird too.
So then that's when they realize like Gillian Jacobs has gone through some stuff.
Okay, so they lock themselves in another room, and the axe guy is coming after them through the door.
They redo the shots from The Shining in a cool homage.
Yes, and they're scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. Clearly that didn't work, and they're at wit's end. And they determined that there was one survivor.
Yes.
Well, actually, before they do that, they're like, we got to put her out there. She just needs to die. It's just simple as that. She has to die. And Sam is like, okay, I guess that's what it has to be. Like, I will do it.
Uh-huh.
So she goes out in the hall, and Dina's freaking out because this just happened. And her brother figures out, because he was looking at his notes, that there was one survivor from a massacre who claims to have seen the witch.
Yeah.
So they pull Sam back in at the last moment, and they determine that we need to find this person. So they try calling this person who doesn't answer, and then they find out that that person died.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right.
So did they find out that same scene, though, that the person died and came back to life?
I think it was like a couple scenes later.
Okay, so they find out that this person died but was resuscitated.
Yeah.
So in order for this curse to be over, Sam has to die. So it's in death that the curse is broken. And if they could resuscitate her, she's back. I'm cool with that.
Great.
I think that's cool.
That's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Then we have the grocery showdown.
Yeah.
And this is a
Simon's Employee of the Month like all year. Good for him.
I know. I loved that cutaway. One thing I will say, I think this movie shot really well.
I think it is too.
I think it's a really great looking movie. The
Yeah.
sets are fun. And if there is a lot of CGI, I only noticed like a couple of instances of it. So it was fun to see a movie with like a horror movie with little CGI in it.
Yeah.
Very little.
Yeah.
So that was like, that's just another thing where it's like, nice job, Lee. Like you have a grasp on this genre for sure.
Yeah.
And the cinematography, great.
Yeah.
So there's this big showdown, and this is when Kate lays out like how to overdose. And
Simon does, because his brother is overdosed but come back to life.
Yeah, so they're gonna try and replicate that.
Yeah.
Story-wise, I think it makes a lot of sense. Messaging-wise, maybe not so great.
Yeah.
We already discussed that earlier.
Yeah.
So then Sam and Dina are working on killing Sam.
Yeah.
Fun. As weird as that sounds, like all these story developments are like, oh, this is fun.
And everyone else has got some of Sam's blood on them as bait.
As
So
they're luring them in.
luring in the three
Musketeers.
corpses. The
Yeah.
three musketeers, yeah.
And as they're doing so, like you said, it felt strange that Simon and Kate are brutally murdered in this scene.
Yeah, because so there's a relatively a lot of a high body count by this point of the movie.
Yeah.
Of people that we don't know, like just extras, who basically got in the way.
Uh-huh.
So I was so curious. There were a couple times leading up to this scene where I'm like, oh, this person totally is dying in the scene. And they didn't. And it's like, I think this crew might make it out alive.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
we're at the big showdown scene, and Josh, Simon, and Kate are fighting off these things for a while
Yeah.
Dina and Sam are trying to kill Sam. And
Trying to drown her at this point because they misplaced the pills.
Yeah, so Dina's now drowning her. And then Kate starts fighting with the skull mask dude.
Yeah.
And he pushes her head through a bread slicer, which is as gory as it sounds.
It was, my jaw dropped and I was dumbfounded that happened.
Was pretty shocked that it happened. And then seconds later, the axe guy puts the axe in Simon's head.
Yeah.
That's as gory as it sounds.
Yeah.
I just am surprised because they waited for this long and
the characters didn't really have a moment. I think
they didn't really have a
that's
moment.
what was more weird was there wasn't like. So I guess on the one hand, it's shocking, so it gets that goal.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's maybe like not what you expect. So that is something you can do. Is do something unexpected and shocking. Okay.
Yeah.
But it did feel strange that the characters didn't even get like a last line or like slow motion death.
They didn't
or
did the character develop or learn something?
Or
I don't know.
Like they attempted to do something that prevented the monster from going further. No.
It just seemed very
Random.
unlucky.
Yeah.
Which it is weird to spend that much time with these characters for that to happen.
Yeah.
It's just unusual based on what I am conditioned
Yeah.
as a movie watcher.
I mean,
to expect.
I didn't like that development
Yeah.
personally. But one thing that is very funny is I guess the director was very adamant about this bread slicer sequence.
Okay.
And the crew was like, no, that's just like too out there and too ridiculous. And then they bought a watermelon and they put it through a bread slicer and it just totally annihilated the watermelon.
Oh, whoa.
And so then I guess the crew cheered because they were like,
weird.
we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it was like on a gross level, it was like they did it well.
Yeah.
But it was just odd. I didn't like those two deaths as far as a story is concerned.
I guess they felt unearned, and but it's at the same time, it's like the movie isn't trying to be this huge, big, epic thing at the same time. Like it's pretty simple, so it's like maybe I'm just putting too much on it.
I mean, I think because we liked the movie, we're trying to provide excuses, but it's okay for us to just think that was not a good story choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So
Sam dies.
Dina brings her back.
Yeah.
So that they succeed, and Josh survives. So all of the corpses are gone. Sam is okay. Life goes back to normal. Sam and Dina are back together. They are listening to music in Dina's room. Is there something before that?
No.
Oh, they're at the police station again.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember what happens other than...
Well, Josh like helps break out the grocery guy again.
Well, no, he worked
guy.
at the mall. But he passes him a paperclip, and this guy gives him a card, and he's like, I owe you a favor. And then you were like, what? And I'm like, trust me, they're totally going to flash his card. And they never do.
So he must be in the next one, and they're like, "Hey, I need your help."
I think so too. But I was hoping it was like one of the last things of the movie is he has. Wait a second, what is this thing like?
He's a Ghostbuster.
Well, exactly. Like he specializes in paranormal activity.
Yeah,
that's his job of choice.
He's like what Lee Winnell and Angus Sampson and Samson.
I can't remember
in the Insidious movies.
Yeah, so I'm. I guess assuming that he is something like that. I kind of wish they showed us that.
Yeah.
But I guess if these movies are coming out 1 week apart, they don't have to leave me hanging that much. So, yeah, Dina and Sam are listening to music in her room, but then she goes out to see Josh. He had bought pizza.
Which that was so funny how they played that, like, look at how much Josh developed. He ordered pizza, because earlier in the movie we mentioned
how he doesn't do anything.
How he wants pizza, like...
Well, he's just the typical younger brother that doesn't do anything.
It was just a very like, huh? That's a development?
That's cute, I guess. So cute moment between siblings. Josh goes back down to his computer. And then Sam stabs Dina, which is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
So you can see Sam is dead.
Yeah.
She is not alive. There are like flies and she looks all pasty white. And they start fighting in the kitchen. When Josh is downstairs listening to really loud music, I think that's a Soundgarden drop. And he is IMing with someone about. I think they could have done it a little bit more, but I don't really know how. But throughout the whole movie, it's like the shady side people. That's lower income people.
Yeah,
live in this town, and then Sunnyside is the upper class town. And often whenever there's a tragedy in Shady Side, it's always like it's because of X, Y, and Z. It's not a tragedy.
Yeah.
So with the recent massacres that happened, they were pinned on Kate and Simon because they're druggies, apparently.
Right.
So, which that's a tragedy in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's IMing someone about it, trying to be like, no, they were cool. They were brave. They were my friends. This is the real story. And then Dina comes in and she's all bloody.
Yeah. And then she had tied up Sam in like the phone cord.
Yeah.
And then they go to Gillian Jacobs' house. And
who was the person that died but came back.
In 1978. Cool.
Yeah.
I hope. So here's what I would hope in the next couple movies. I hope we find out who he's IMing. I think that would be cool.
Yes.
I guess that's really. And what's on that card? I just want to know who he is IMing because it felt important. It felt like it was more than just a rando that he was.
For someone to have no friends and he clearly has a person that he talks to a lot.
Yeah.
I want to know who it is.
Yeah. So I guess
I'm
that's
sure
it.
he wants to know who it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm sure it's what we're thinking. She's going to tell the story in the next movie. There'll be a little bit more development, and then maybe they find a book or something on the curse, and then they like read the book, and that's the third movie, and then the last act of the third movie is them defeating the curse.
Yeah, you're
that makes the most sense.
We're right, probably, maybe.
We're definitely right 100%. So that's the movie.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was pretty fun. I liked it.
I thought it was fun too.
It was just more than I was expecting in pretty much every aspect.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I know a lot of our listeners, and we know a lot of them, and I wouldn't recommend this to all of our listeners.
Yeah.
For sure. Just as I wouldn't with a lot of movies that we've covered, but so use your own discretion, I suppose. But yeah.
I think it's a fun summer slasher movie.
It's funny because it was more than I was expecting, but as far as like the story and the idea, it was like exactly what I was hoping it was going to be.
Yep.
So, so next week we're going to go to 1978. And I wish I knew something important that happened that year so I could make some joke like we're going to hit Woodstock or something like that, but I think that was 76.
No, we're going to summer camp.
We're going to summer camp.
But it's not going to be a wet, hot American summer.
Ah, there we go. A Patreon, we're covering Kill Bill this month. I think we're on Kill Bill Volume 2 this month. That's coming out next week. And then let's see. I think as far as the podcast is concerned, I think that's all I got to say.
Great.
We did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings a couple of weeks ago, so check that out. And we still have yet to record Godfather 3, but our first two Godfather episodes are some of our best episodes, I must say. Oh, yeah. I'd hate for them to know.
How the sausage gets made.
Well, how the sausage gets made, some joke to do with the bread slicer.
Goodbye.